Greetings, my fellow low-sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to L3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Monday, August 26, 2024. This is episode 1766. Jon Schaffer's sentence postponed. Walz's radical record and SCOTUS versus free speech. Before proceeding, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Look Your Luck number 3, Look Your Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or the Look Your Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, all that good stuff, etc., whatever you do, please use decorum. You can go to ll3.podcast.proton.me. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/Look Your Luck number 3. Yes, I had a little delay on doing some shows. Had a family emergency, but it's all well and good. And plus, I got to actually work on my technical difficulties on my laptop. So I'm on my phone, which I could do a lot of things a little bit better, but it's okay. You win some, you lose some, right? Man, so a lot of interesting things are happening, right? Around the United States, the world, technocracy, going crazy. You don't hear anything about what's going on in Nigeria, Kenya, a few other places with their big Orwellian system. See, no one cares, right? Oh, man. But it's horrible, regardless of what you think. And they try to bring it into the United States. That's what I call a ripple effect. Try to spread the cancer so that they all consume, comply, belly up, and go, yes, big brother, I'll do anything for you, master. How ludicrous is that? Oh, man. So, just browsing around a few articles here. This one got my curiosity. Actually, I'm having too much fun here. Judge postpones Schaffer's sentencing for the 5th time. That's Jon Schaffer, the founding member of Iced Earth, Demons and Wizards, Sons of Liberty. Some of the members, former members who got kicked out, all that, are saying, oh, he should have known better. For pointing sternly and yelling. How obscene is that? That's an insurrection, according to mainstream garbage media, that everything's coming out, like revealed, unmasked, bare naked. So it was never an insurrection, folks. It was all done by design. Socially engineered. Just like the riots they had with George Floyd, right? The ones who are doing it mostly were hired guns being bust in. You got to do it across the board. Thanks to citizen journalists who put that out. Take the initiative to look at all sides of the matter instead of listening to all the beakers, the pundits, the Rachel Maddows, the Mark Levins, etc. Well, I'm going to be reading this from Republic. It came out a couple of days ago. It caught my eye. And let's see what Mr. Easton say about this. A federal judge has postponed the sentencing hearing for a former Columbus resident who has pleaded guilty to storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, for the 5th time this year as prosecutors continue to sort out how the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling on an obstruction charge impacts the case. During a virtual hearing on Friday, U.S. District Judge Amit P. Mehta granted a request from federal prosecutors to postpone former heavy metal musician and Columbus resident Jon Schaffer's sentencing hearing, according to files in the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. Former heavy metal musician. He's still doing it. While prosecutors has asked Mehta, delay the September 13th sentencing hearing until December, the judge opted to schedule the hearing on October 25th. Mehta did not provide a reason to explain his decision to grant the request. Schaffer was released on personal reconnaissance following the virtual hearing on Friday. The decision to delay the hearing comes just over a year after Mehta originally scheduled Schaffer to be sentenced on February 20th. Since then, Schaffer's sentencing has been delayed 5 times, with dates being scheduled in April, July, August, September, and now late October. The United States seeks a brief continuance to assess the impact of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision. Prosecutors state in their request, such a continuance would not prejudice the defendant or the court. To the contrary, it would help to ensure a uniform and consistent approach before each judge of the district and circuit. The justice ruled 63 in June that the charge of obstructing an official proceeding enacted in 2002 in response to the financial scandal that brought down Enron Corp. Must include proof that defendants tried to tamper with or destroy documents, the Associated Press reported. The obstruction charge was one of the 2 charges that Schaffer pleaded guilty to. He also pleaded guilty to 1 count of entering and remaining in a restricted building or ground with a deadly or dangerous weapon. Bear spray! Woo! Everyone run to the hills, right? The drama queens are going berserk. Currently, it's unclear if or how the High Court's ruling will impact the prosecution of Schaffer. Court filings did not make any mention of Schaffer trying to tamper with or destroy documents during the January 6th attack. An attack. So I love this drama queen article here. Schaffer, who is a former member of the heavy metal band Ice Earth, was photographed inside a Capitol building wearing a tactical vest and a hat that said Oath Keeper lifetime member with bear spray in his hand, according to the court filings. As part of his guilty plea, Schaffer acknowledged that he is a founding lifetime member of the Oath Keepers and believed that the federal government had co-opted by a cabal and elites actively trying to strip American citizens of their rights. He is not a founding member of Oath Keepers. You are a douchebag, bro. You are pathetic, inaccurate, and a drama queen. What is this? Andy East. Yeah. Good grief, man. Another Yahoo. I'm a journalist. Yeah, give me the penile microphone where you're at it, too. As part of the guilty plea, the Oath Keepers, a militia group that recruits current and former military, police, and first responders. The case that was Supreme Court heard involves Joseph Fisher, a former Pennsylvania police officer who is facing a 7-count indictment for his actions on January 6, 2021, including the obstruction charge and 2 other defendants, according to Wire reports. The Supreme Court returned the case of former Pennsylvania police officer Joseph Fisher to a lower court to determine if Fisher can be charged with obstruction. Schaffer's attorneys, for their part, have argued that the Supreme Court's decision in the Fisher case directly relates to the impact, the validity of Schaffer's plea and conviction, and could factor into what the ultimate sentence would be. If Mr. Schaffer is sentenced to a term of incarceration for obstruction charge and begins serving his sentence, he would irreparably harmed, as he will lose his gainful employment, uproot his life, and serve time for a felony that may be invalidated by the Fisher outcome, one of Schaffer's attorneys said in court filings. Federal authorities have argued in court filings that even if the Supreme Court were to decide Fisher adversely to the government, it is not clear that the court's interpretation of the obstruction charge would necessarily invalidate Schaffer's conviction in this case, federal prosecutors said in court filings. And even if it did, the appropriate venue for challenging such a sentence would be postponed sentencing appeal, not a motion to set aside the verdict, according to court filings. Moreover, obstruction of Congress was not defendant Schaffer's only conviction. He will also be sentenced for unlawfully entering or remaining in restricted building or grounds with a deadly or dangerous weapon. Oh my goodness. What can we say about that, right? Columbus, Indiana. Well, many of us, like-minded individuals, that seen the live footage of January 6th. It was done by design, socially engineered, infiltrated. Yeah, Schaffer could have maybe have exhibited himself better, but pointing sternly and yelling isn't a crime. He didn't burn down any buildings. He didn't vandalize, destroy, desecrate anything in the Capitol building. But all those minions, those imbeciles in Congress were wigging out, hiding, and all that good stuff because they hate receiving consequences. They love dishing out, talking smack, but can't back it up. They're including Chuck Schumer, the Pinocchio of the U.S. Senate. I despise that man for a long time. Why? Because he's another one of those treasonous parasites that need to be dealt with legally. He's just one example. The list goes on, and we all know for sure, even since the year 2000, okay, after the whole Bush-Gore presidential race, it was controversial what happened in Florida, even though Al Gore lost the state of Arkansas and Tennessee. That's my dog communicating. So, listen to our new son. Hey, cut it out. Cut it out. That's my dog, by the way. But what can we say, right? It's one of those moments. Well, rejecting the grievances, but pointing sternly and yelling is so obscene. Oh my goodness. That is Jon Schaffer. And that's obscene. And who's here? Queen Bella Forever. Thank you for entering the studios. Hopefully I won't disturb you at all. But one thing for sure, one thing I like about this, it's being postponed, the case and so forth, because we're expecting what might happen in 2024. Looks like Robert F. Kennedy is endorsing Trump and many others as well, regardless of differences. We're seeing something very treacherous, with this Harris Walz ticket, what they call bought in treason for prison. As far as I'm concerned, keep up with these postponements. I think it's fantastic. Other words, it's called clog the system. Clog it. And I do give him props for that. Jon Schaffer did nothing wrong. And all you minions out there want to prove me right, prove me wrong, I would love to hear from you. All right, we're going to go through Tim Walz's radical record from AmericanFreePress.net. And this is actually subscription only. So go to AmericanFreePress.net. You can check it out for yourselves. And it says here, the AFP editor, Tim Walz's radical record. This is by Mark Anderson. According to former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty, Republican, the state's current Governor Tim Walz, the vice presidential hopeful running alongside presumptive presidential nominee Kamala Harris, is the most left-wing governor in the entire nation. Taking into account current Vice President Kamala Harris's notoriously militant liberalism regarding so-called abortion rights, among other issues, where her Marxist-style pedigree emerges. The Harris-Walz Democratic team will give the United States a thick dose of socialism if two candidates snatch the White House. Keep calm, folks. We got the 10th Amendment, anti-commandeering doctrine, in these United States. In his official capacity, Pawlenty has met Walz on several occasions. He self-declared the most progressive governor in the country, remarked Pawlenty, who served as governor from 2003 to 2011. Walz was first elected governor in 2018 and was re-elected in 2022. Walz is a former congressman elected in 2006 to Minnesota's 1st District. He was elected 5 times. Considering that, Vice President Harris has been ranked as the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. The end result would be an extremely progressive, some would say socialist ticket that may be a bridge too far regarding policy for many Americans. I hate to use the term liberal, because the founding fathers were considered liberal and Thomas Jefferson was considered a classic one. So this is like, getting all whitewashed here. And with all due respect to Mr. Anderson. But I'll continue on. But there's going to be a real dilemma with swing voters on which way they'll go. Pawlenty continued during a recent CNN interview. Harris serves as a senator for California from 2017 to 2021. During an interview with Pawlenty, the CNN anchor cited polls indicating less than 50% of respondents thought that Harris and Walz are too liberal. The anchor said if the Democrat duel is really so far left that the message is not getting through to voters. The Trump campaign will have to do a better job highlighting the Harris-Walz position on open borders, their role in causing inflation, the crime situation, what many people see as wokeness run amok, and more, Pawlenty said. According to the Respected Freedom Index, an ongoing voting grading survey conducted by the New American Magazine, Walz received a 20% lifetime average rating in terms of voting in accordance with the Constitution. His worst term was the 111th Congress in 2009 and 2010, when he got a 5% rating. His best term was during the 112th Congress in 2011 to 2012, when he was ranked at 30%. J.D. Vance, Republican from Ohio, by comparison, has an 86% lifetime rating, though he's only in his first six-year term. In Congress, Walz voted for the Patriot Act and for hate crimes legislation that to seek criminalized thoughts, a truly Orwellian concept. Walz also voted for funding to unconstitutionally boost federal aid to local law enforcement, risking further federalization of local and state police. Exactly. The centralization is dangerous, my friends. He also supported, among other things, what his parties call a woman's right to choose, as well as gun control measures when he was representative in Congress. Walz has been facing scrutiny for his military record. He served from 1981 to 2005 in the U.S. Army. Vance in particular alleges that Walz falsely claimed that he saw combat during his time as an Army reservist. Vance also is among those who maintain that Walz's Army retirement was timed to avoid a wartime deployment to Iraq. Other critics of Walz in regard include Representative Mike Walz, Republican from Florida, a former Green Beret who characterizes the timing of Walz's retirement as follows. It's kind of like a quarterback of a big football team walking away from their team right before they go to the Super Bowl. Walz's military records remain a bit murky, with political posts claiming Walz filed the paperwork for his congressional run in February 2005, about a month before reports emerged that the Minnesota National Guard might be deployed. Walz then announced his run in May of that year, 2 months before that National Guard's directive was officially issued. And I can disagree with the National Guard being deployed in Iraq. However, when you got someone bragging about he served, that's a whole different ballgame. So I'll continue on. The reports from Politico does not preclude the possibility that Walz secured advanced inside information on military deployments. Over his years in office, he becomes clear what Walz supports. While leftists have been cheerleading Walz's liberal populism, there is a darker side to Walz. This includes Walz has been a staunch proponent of mutilating gender-affirming care for those seeking sex changes contrary to their birth gender. Walz signed two bills that made Minnesota a refuge for people seeking abortion care, perhaps the most chilling Orwellian phrase ever coined outside their home state. He also made Minnesota the first state to codify abortion protections into law a few months after Roe versus Wade overturned. As governor, Walz signed bills that forced taxpayers to provide health care insurance regardless of recipients' immigration status, and made illegal aliens eligible for driver's licenses, and Walz seeking to make Minnesota 100% clear energy by 2040, an apparently impossible goal. Should Walz and Harris win in November, we can expect an extremely aggressive pro-left regime. So you could say financially he's pro-involuntary servitude. And of course, the gender-affirming care. There's a lot of controversy with this man. I am not impressed by this coward at all. Especially in my past episodes when I talked about treasonous Tim. He should be sentenced on a state level for what happened during the COVID lockdowns by having National Guard or military forces, I don't know what it is, shooting at innocent people hanging outside, having to stay in their homes, getting shot by paintballs, and letting areas of Minneapolis, including the police station, get burnt to the ground by having the National Guard stand down. That's treason, folks. And I don't give a damn if you think he's going to be a great man, he's going to vote for these clowns. Barred in treason for prison. Nothing more, nothing less. You're talking to an individual who's not a Trump fawner either. But many of them right now, you see these endorsements going on towards him. They have differences, but they see something more wicked from these dodo birds that will make people cringe. It's like the 1850s friction with the political rhetoric and all that. One of the reasons why the southern states has seceded. It's not treason, folks. It was because the federal government breached their social contract. There are differences. Yes, I know about the slave thing and all that, but northern states have slaves too. Look up the Library of Congress. It tells you all about it. One thing for sure, my friends, is very dangerous. Yeah, the privileged duo. Gonna tell everyone else how to live and think for our own good. That's police state 101. They will probably accelerate the war on terror. They're Bushite clowns, maggots. And Tim Walz deserved to go to prison. Due process, good faith, and all that. If you don't like it, deal with it. And it was funny because I will add a link to this on the New American, by the way, on his track record. It tells you all the stuff he voted for. Oh, yeah. You'd be surprised. Yeah, he supported big spending on appropriation for defense, HHS education, and all that, which is unconstitutional, and the FAA reauthorization and supplemental disaster appropriations. But you can go through everything here, see for yourself. There's some stuff he chose wisely. He voted no on the World Bank, which is HR 3326. Yeah, I'll give him props. And of course, warrant surveillances. He voted on ending it, attempt to limit. So that's good. All right. And then another one too is S39, same thing. But there's some areas, the Patriot Act, all that good stuff. So ozone standards. That's just one year. You can look at the whole entire list. But I am not pleased with this person. He's just looks like has that look like, yeah, I'm a New World Order butt boy. Does that turn you on? Respect me now. Doesn't matter what their party is, folks. When it comes to tyranny, I call it all out. I'm not afraid to say it to them directly. Well, all right. I'm going to do one more here. I say, what the heck? And this one here came from Brownstone Institute. Came out yesterday. SCOTUS versus free speech is by Gaetana Bhattacharya. Hopefully I can pronounce that person's name correctly. It says here, in a 63 ruling on Murphy versus Missouri case, Supreme Court ruled against me and my fellow co-plaintiffs in effect, rendering the First Amendment a dead letter in the social media age. At stake, the case was the Status of preliminary injunction issued by a lower federal courts ordering the Biden administration to stop coercing social media companies to censor and shadow ban people and ideas that the government does not like. On July 4th of last year, federal judge Terry Doty issued a preliminary injunction upon consideration in our case, ruling that, given the evidentiary record already considered, we are likely to win on the merits of the case we brought before the court. He described the Biden administration's censorship campaign as Orwellian, violating the First Amendment root and branch. The facts of the case are simple to understand, voluminously, documented and shocking, and they explain why the lower courts, including a unanimous three-judge panel of the Federal Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, issued a preliminary injunction to stop the Biden administration from censoring in the first place. The injunction that reached the Supreme Court was narrowly constructed, specifically exempting national security-related communications between the government and the social media companies, as well as communications regarding criminal activity on the social media platforms such as child porn. The government was still permitted to tell social media companies about such speech. The evidence revealed in the discovery of our case showed that employees of a dozen federal government agencies and the Biden White House directly pressured social media companies to censor viewpoints contrary to the official narratives they had pushed on the American people. Emails from the White House to Facebook show government officials threatening to use regulatory power to harm social media companies that did not apply with censorship demands. The positions of high-ranking career staff and political employees and unearthed emails between government and social media companies like Facebook and Twitter X revealed the government's tactics to suppress speech. The Surgeon General Office of the FBI, the CDC, and the State Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and the White House were closely involved. Government agencies funded universities and NGOs to support enterprises with Orwellian names like Virality Project, Center for Counseling Digital Hate, to create a target list for administration's censorship efforts, with government backing these entities linked sometimes to prominent universities like Stanford and the University of Washington, work with corporate teams in the social media companies, trust and safety, division, and censor offending speech. The problem is that the government and these entities are bad at identifying misinformation. They had a predilection for censoring people and ideas that are critical of government policy, whatever those criticisms are true or false. For instance, according to court documents found during discovery, the Biden administration insisted, found during discovery, Biden administration insisted on censoring and deboosting content that accurately pointed out rapidly winning efficacy of the COVID vaccine against infections, which they used to justify executive orders imposing vaccine mandates. The Biden White House pressured Facebook to censor vaccine discussions, such as group of vaccine injured patients that did not violate Facebook's community standards. In response to harsh communication from Biden COVID advisor Andy Salvit in 2021, Facebook limited the reach of these groups and censored them. Ironically, even the White House itself, caught by its censorship demands at the Biden administration's behest, Facebook implemented algorithms to suppress posts their computer deemed anti-vax. In April 2021, when the CDC issued a pause of the distribution of the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine because they had identified elevated level strokes in women, the Facebook algorithms tagged the White House account as an anti-vax account. The administration angrily ordered Facebook to stop censoring his speech. Free speech for us, not for them. The censorship campaign harmed the health of Americans by preventing accurate speech by me and others from reaching the attention of the American people. Children were kept out of schools for years. Churches, mosques, and synagogues were closed. Businesses shuttered, and unvaccinated people lost their jobs and faced social discrimination because of misinformation put forward by the government. I know for a fact, my friends, I can tell you that. Had the government permitted in a fair debate on the science of COVID, they would have lost on their merits. The continued crisis of high access mortality and many other harms caused by blinkered COVID policies might have been avoided. The Supreme Court's reasoning in denying the preliminary injunction against the Biden administration's that the plaintiffs in the case, which include the states of Missouri and Louisiana and me and several other targets of government censorship, have not established standing to sue the government on First Amendment grounds. The first ruling in effect requires a chain of emails from a particular government bureaucrat to a social media company demanding that the social media company censors speech. Since this censorship activity takes place in the dark recesses of government bureaucracies, outside of the capacity of regular citizens to observe, it sets a standard that is impossible to meet absent extraordinary circumstances. In my and my colleague Martin Kuldroff's case, at least the Supreme Court ignored evidence we uncovered of a high government official, Francis Collins, the former head of the National Institute of Health, directing Tony Fauci to conduct a devastating takedown of our ideas on how to better manage a pandemic, in brief, implementing focused protection of vulnerable elderly people and not closing schools or imposing harmful lockdowns. The ruling also ignores the nature of the government censorship activities, which focuses on more censoring ideas and narrative themes than on censoring particular people. The government directly and through its university and NGO proxies coerces social media companies to implement automated algorithms to suppress and shadow ban ideas that the government does not like, whether true or not. By requiring such a standard for standing in First Amendment cases, the Supreme Court has effectively greenlit sophisticated government censorship operations that moot the First Amendment. The case now goes back down to the lower courts for more discovery and probing of the government censorship operation. While I anticipate we will win there, the case may come back to the Supreme Court in due course. More importantly, though, our loss in the Supreme Court points to the need for Congress and voters to act to protect American free speech rights. Now it is clear that the Supreme Court will not do so. Congress should pass a law prohibiting the executive branch and associated federal bureaucracies from censoring Americans via direct and indirect pressure on social media, and it should cut funding to the university and NGO operations of the government used to launder its social censorship schemes. Voters should demand of every candidate for office, including the presidency, where they stand on modern censorship operation and vote accordingly. In a sense, by exposing and publicizing the government's censorship operation, which cannot survive in the sunlight, we have already won despite the disappointing result in the Supreme Court. Well, my friends, it's this simple. We got the power and they don't. Free speech is more important than their feelings. Absolutely. Regardless of what you think. If you're offended, turn it off. Who cares what you think? One thing I know for sure, many people are running their graves, including Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist. He says to suppress free speech is a double wrong. It's not just for the hearer, but for the speaker as well. Always think about that, folks. It's a double wrong. We have the right to listen, examine, observe, and make our own judgment. Freedom of conscience. We don't need bureaucrats, the Biden administration, Merrick Garland, any Bushite maggot. How we should contemplate. We've done this on our own free will. Plus, we need to take responsibility for our actions. Popular or not, you got to protect it all, including your enemies. If you don't, then they create a president. That will be on you. Thomas Paine made a statement like that. I'm just paraphrasing. Well, good. One thing for sure, folks, liberty shall prevail. When the government knows best, it turns to cow chip. Well, that will be it. I'd thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, and since something that's interesting or check out whatever you do, please use decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of this episode on the page, Podbean to be exact. And if you want to contact me, go to ll3.podcast.proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or Cash on app /look3. If you want to support the Republic.com, American Free Press, New American, or Brownstone Institute, Substack, don't matter. It'd be great. And observe responsibly. Thank you, Queen Bella Forever, Must Pick, and El Gato, the cat. Meow! Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.